Hey guys, this is Kelsey with Plotter Mechanics, and we are at a customer's office called Accurate Fire Sprinkler. And this guy has a DesignJet 500. It's probably 15 years old maybe. And he got an error code 11:11, which means that there's a problem with the cable that goes between the carriage and the main board. We're gonna step inside here and we're gonna try and diagnose and troubleshoot this and hopefully fix it with the parts I brought. So we'll see you in a few minutes inside. Hey guys, so I'm in here at Accurate Fire Sprinkler now, and I'm looking at his machine, and he has this giant 11:11 error code on the front panel here. Basically, in the manual, it says that the carriage cannot communicate to the main board, and that cable is inside the printer here, under this black thing, and it wraps around and it connects up to the carriage here. And I see it's fully intact, so it hasn't became disconnected. But we're going to take all the covers off and get to the connection points and reseat the cable first. And then we'll go from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the printer apart. All right, so now we're gonna take these covers off real quick. Stay here. There's gonna be one here. Disconnect this cables here. Then we're gonna have one right here. One right here. And one down low. That's broken. All right, then we got two more in the front here, and then everything's gonna come off. Last one's down here. And it's amazing, all the screws are actually still in this printer, as old as it is. All right, so we're gonna take this cover off. Oh, there's a little cover on the back here that's gotta come off before this is out of the way. This top one's gonna pull right off. Okay, so our ribbon cable connects to the main board right here, so I'm gonna reconnect. I'm gonna just double check these connections here. I wanna see what they look like. Those look good to me.
What are you looking for?
When they get old, sometimes they'll separate and peel away from this thing and cause issues, and you'll see you can't have these things connecting with each other. So we're gonna release this off of here. There's little release clips, and then the cable would come out. And this looks okay here. So now we want to take a look at the top and slide the carriage down this way. There's a little spot in here, a notch in the rail at the top where we can open this cover at this position, bring it up, and our connections are going to be inside of this dust cover right here. And this is the other side of the cable, so I'm going to pull this out and take a look at it. Those connections look pretty good to me. And they don't look bad here either, but we have no idea what's going on between here and the other side. One of these little tiny wires could be cracked. So I'm just gonna reseat the cable back. You wanna be careful when you put this in there that you get it straight down and push it in there. It's difficult to get these cables in there because sometimes when you take them out, they don't wanna go back in, so you gotta make sure you get them in there straight. And press it down in there like that. Same thing here. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna come back over here and we're gonna reconnect these. They're labeled J2s in the rear. The lighting's not very good in here, but I've done a lot of these cables, so I know. Ah, there we go. Some light. And this is going to pop in right here. You can kind of see that red line there that's kind of showing us that it's in all the way. So with that, like that, I'm gonna go ahead and plug our power back in, just see if maybe reconnecting those cables will help us. So we plug that in, we got our power. We've got this little switch here that tells us that the lid's open, so we're gonna wanna hold that down while it boots up so it thinks the covers are closed. And we're right back to the 1111, so we're gonna go ahead and replace this cable with a different one that I brought with me. And if the cable doesn't fix the problem, then it's gonna have to be the board on the top of the carriage will be next. I'm gonna power it off. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and remove this trailing cable, and as I was in here looking at it, we can see that this thing's been rubbing back and forth for probably 10 years, 15 years back and forth. So anything in here could be causing a problem with the cable. But while I was in there, I also noticed that this drive belt's completely shredded here. It's amazing it's still even working, but that's the good thing about HPs is that they'll run till the tires fall off. So we're gonna go ahead and get this cable out of here. First thing we're gonna need to do is we're gonna have to remove the print heads. So we're gonna take the print heads out of the machine. Go ahead and set these aside here. All right, then we're gonna need a little T8. It's a small one. There's a little screw down here that we're gonna have to unscrew. You can just loosen it up. It will stay in there. Once it gets loose, it's loose. And then this is gonna come out. There's a little clip right here. I'm gonna lift that up gently. You gotta be careful with these older printers because they're brittle, and if you're not careful, you'll break these clips and stuff off, and it causes issues. So once that's out, we're gonna remove this clip here, which is broken, if you notice, and I don't even know if I can get this piece or not, but this is not gonna go back in there properly, so we're gonna have to put it back together without this. It helps hold the cable in. So we're gonna remove the cable like this. Pull it out of there. Now it's disconnected. We're gonna push it over this way. And now we gotta remove these little clips. There's gonna be, I think, 4 on the 42 inch and only like 2 on the 24, but this is just holding the cable down so it doesn't rub under the carriage when it goes back and forth. This is kind of easy to get these out, but there's one hidden underneath here. And when you put this one back in, you gotta pay attention because you've got, I'm gonna try and pull this out so you can see it. But so when that goes back in there, you have to get it going here and here at the same time. And on the back of this little clip, there's a little square hole that has to line up and keep that all together in the right spot. So we gotta remember that when we put it back together. This black piece is just gonna come out of there. That just holds the cable down. And then we're gonna go ahead and disconnect it on this end again. Get that out of the way. Sometimes you might need a little tool or something. You don't want to pull those too hard, they'll pull all the way out. Then we've got this grommet here this we're gonna have to put back in, but we've got to get this grommet's being held by these clips here. So we're gonna get that out of there. Set the grommet up here. And go ahead and pull this cable out this way. And when we put it back through, we want to make sure we don't bend these up when we push it through this little spot right here. But we're gonna pull these out around the carriage. And there's our old cable. So we're gonna go ahead, get another part, and we'll come back and install that cable and we'll test it again. All right, so I brought this used trailing cable with me. Unfortunately, it got damaged. And this is an example of what happens to these cables. If you can see that in your video, but these little fingers are very tight together, and if one gets messed up and touches the other one, it can cause all kinds of nasty problems inside a printer. So if you have a cable on any printer that doesn't look like it's in great shape, you don't even want to really try and attempt putting it in there because you can't really see what goes on inside once it goes down there. So we're gonna try another cable. I'm gonna go get one. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're ready to put this cable in that I got. This is a good one. I have a lot of used parts for these DesignJets, so if you ever need anything, get a hold of us at our website. So we got this cable here, and we have this little red mark, so we're gonna go ahead and install the cable that red mark is going to show us where it needs to be here, so we have to weave it through the machine as we're putting it in there. I'm going to take this excess over here and let it hang. First thing we got to do is get this under the carriage assembly. It's going to slide down there and come out the other side here. And then we're going to have to slide it under here so we can lift up on this little clip so we don't mess up the cable as we push it through there. And we're going to push it right through and have it come out the other side. It's not working. Yeah, you got to be real careful right here. This is where you can just ruin the cable if you don't get it under there properly. There we go. All right, we're going to pull this down to the red mark, and that's going to go right there. We got to put our grommet back on here. Same thing, we want to be careful when you slide this through. This grommet's kind of a pain, but we're going to need to get it back down in there. It's important, so. We're going to push it down in there. Little clips lock in. And earlier I said J2 goes to the rear, so we want to make sure we put J2 in the rear spot here. It's a little difficult to get in here. Sometimes it's easier to take this electronics module off, but I don't want to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and try and put it in there.
Sorry, let me know.
Okay. Got that one in. And when you put them in there, you can see if they're straight by looking at this little red thing. That should disappear when you put it into the spot and it's in there in the proper distance. Okay. All right, now we're going to come back over here. Take this cable, this brown part of the cable bends inside and supports the cable so it doesn't fall down on top of itself when it's going back and forth. So we're going to take this, it's going to go that. So we're going to put this in the machine this way. So now we need this little black piece here. We're going to go ahead and put that back on.
Can you describe where you're putting it?
Yeah. Okay. So this is the piece that goes across and holds this cable down. So we're going to slide this under the carriage assembly. Put that into position. And our little squares on these little locks have to go into those little guys right there. So we want to pull the cable forward so we don't pinch it on the back side over here. Then these clips are going to go like this. Slide on like that, and then lock in the back, and it should pop down to that little square that we got. Okay, there's one of them. And we got this one. It's pretty easy to see what's going on with this. Got one here. And then this is going to be the one that's difficult to see that's up underneath here. We've got to get this brown piece on top of the black piece and then lock all that stuff together with the other clip that I've seen misplaced. Ah, here it is. So this part's a little bit difficult, but our black piece is already in the right position because it's already locked in on these other locations. So that's not going to be a problem. It's just going to be getting the brown part. And you'll feel it when it clips into place too, so. That's not, okay, there it goes. It's important those all get locked down because this carriage rides over top of that. And then we're gonna come back here, we got our ribbon cable here. We're gonna bend it back this way and bring it back to the carriage. Once again, we want to be careful for our little cables, we don't mess that up. So we're gonna bring this over to the top, and in between these two black pieces of tape, we're gonna clip this in like we had it before. So we gotta kind of bend the cable and get it to, and then we don't have the clip that goes on top, but from my experience, it's okay to not have it in there. It usually doesn't have to cause a problem. Gotta feed it behind this little clip back here. And then these cables are gonna bend and go right into the carriage.
How do you know which one goes where?
They can only go one way. You can't really get this one there and still get the other one in the back. So as long as you have the J2 on the rear here and you follow it through like that, these are gonna come up in the right spot. And this one's gonna have to go to the rear. And these aren't labeled on this side, but put this down in there. Same with this one. Okay. Since before we were just getting the 1111 immediately, I'm gonna go ahead and plug the power in just the way it is and see if the carriage starts trying to move or do anything, and I can always shut it off. But before I put it all back together, I wanna double check it because we may have to change out this board if this doesn't work. So we power it up, and before we were just getting the 11:11 error code, and it never even tried to turn on. And it's ready to turn on now. It's asking me to close the window, which is further than we got before. So now I'm gonna go ahead and turn the power back off and put the tube assembly back in. We'll reinstall the print heads, and hopefully we'll have that problem resolved for this guy. So we turned the machine on, it's trying to boot up, so we're gonna go ahead and put everything back together real quick. And then we'll leave the covers off while we finish this printed installation and stuff, and then we'll buckle it all up when it's finished. So first thing we gotta do is put our tube assembly back in. So we have to make sure we have the carriage in this spot where this notch is so we can get this lid open. And then we're gonna bring that down in there. That's where the print heads are gonna go. And then we have to lock this assembly in here is gonna fit right down on this. So we gotta, there's a little clip right here that's gonna lock it down. Those break off easy, so you gotta be careful. Here, tuck the tubes down. So that locked into place. Make sure this is in place, and then we're gonna snug this screw up here, which holds this whole latch assembly down, so when this locks on, it doesn't come loose. Then we wanna make sure that before we turn this on, we wanna make sure we latch this carriage and put it in the back position. Otherwise, the machine will go down there and break this piece off, or this piece off, and you don't want that. So make sure you lock that, and we're gonna go ahead and turn the power back on while it boots up. And the other thing that we have to do is we have to make it think that the lid's closed. So once we trick it here, we just want to make sure we keep our fingers out of the way, but we're going to stick something in here. It could be a pencil or anything, but we're going to just push that switch down so that the machine thinks that the lid's closed. And then it's going to start initializing, and we're hoping to see this carriage move. I didn't put the cover on yet either. I need to put that on there. All the dust from the belt that's falling apart coming off on the paper. Now I don't have the print heads in, they're sitting here on top, so as soon as it boots up, we're gonna ask it if we can put the print heads in. And we'll go through that process, and then hopefully if that's successful, it'll do a calibration, and then we should be able to button it back up. Okay, so I'm at the front panel here. It's telling me to replace the print heads. So I'm gonna press the enter key. I'm gonna scroll down to replace the print heads. It's kind of hard to see. Hit enter. And this process takes a long time for some reason. Sometimes it comes right out, but normally it takes 30-40 seconds at least. Okay, so our heads finally came out here. It's waiting for it. So we gotta make sure that we pull our thing out so it knows we lifted the lid. since we don't have the lid on there. And then we're gonna go ahead and reinstall these print heads here. So we got our black one, our yellow one. These are the original print heads that were in the machine. The magenta one, the cyan one. And we're gonna just make sure they're firmly down there. We're gonna latch this. You wanna be gentle here with this and make sure you latch it because this stuff is very brittle and old. And then we're gonna tell it that we close the lid again. And it's gonna check the print heads. At this point, it's either gonna do what it's doing now and start calibrating the printer, or it's gonna come back out and tell us that one of them's not seated properly or whatever. And that could be just a bad head, but it seems as if it's taking it. Now we're gonna do a calibration, and we'll show you how to diagnose this printhead alignment chart once it's done. Okay, so after putting the print heads in the printer, it accepted them and it tried to calibrate them. It did it 3 times, and one of the print heads is struggling here. I don't know if you can see this video, but the yellow's missing channels, and the print head's recognizing that there's a problem. So it says that there's an alignment error. I'm gonna hit enter, and it's giving me a warning on my yellow print head. It doesn't mean that we can't keep using it, it's just that maybe our quality is gonna be compromised. So we're gonna go ahead and put the covers back on this machine. We recognize that it needs a belt, and we're gonna have to return with the belt here at a later date and reinstall that, and we'll make a video and show you how to do that too. Have a great day.